because I heard Ray McGovern's comment before. And Ray, I just took us through the 1970s and then went quickly to today. I was concerned if I included everything in the GI and Veterans Peace Movement, we would never leave tonight. So next time, Marty.
Yes. Ray, did you want to comment? You can unmute. You have to unmute, Ray.
My wife would like to learn how to mute me. Can I be heard now?
Yes.
I can. I have to get rid of one. Okay. Susan, you make me so proud to be a member of Veterans for Peace. And people ask me why I keep wearing black. Well, it's not only Johnny Cash. It's my pride in wearing this shirt. I just like to fill in a couple of details. 1967 was key, okay? And you explained it so brilliantly. And I was on active duty with the CIA at the time. I had just left the military earlier. And I was responsible for Vietnam from the Soviet perspective. And my friend, Sam Adams, a direct descendant from John Adams, who used to live up your way in Boston, was my colleague and responsible for counting Viet Cong. Short story here. Sam did a very assiduous job. He said there were between 500 and 600,000 Viet Cong under arms in South Vietnam. He found out that General Westmoreland, our chief there at Saigon, was saying, no, it could not be more than 299,000. And toward the end of 1967, as you already stated, he said, it's turning, we're going to win the war. And he was asking LBJ, give me just 206,000 more troops. That's why all those draft notices were going out, okay? Give me 206,000 troops. We'll go into Cambodia, up to North Vietnam. Well, we might even threaten China. We couldn't do that, okay? LBJ was going to give him those troops. And then all of a sudden, as you correctly pointed out, the turning point came during Tet at the end of January, beginning of February, where these 299,000, yeah, give me a break, where 500 to 600,000 Vietnamese attacked all the villages and towns and everything in South Vietnam. Okay, so here's LBJ faced with the decision, my God, what do I do now? Well, his inclination was to give Westy the 206,000. And then what happened? Two people leaked, okay? In those days, the New York Times would tell the truth if they had documents or they had really senior people they could trust. Les Gelb, we found out later, who was an assistant secretary of defense at the time, leaked to the New York Times, whoa, Westmoreland wants 206,000 more troops. Headlines in the New York Times, March 10th, 1968. One of the people well plugged into all this, I'll tell you his name in a second, said, my God, if someone can leak Westmoreland's figures, I can leak Sam Adams' figures. In other words, I can leak the story that Westmoreland dissed the real numbers, that the CIA had the correct numbers, but was overruled. And so this fellow leaked that to the New York Times, and that appeared just a week later. Who was that fellow? This fellow was named Ellsberg, the first name Dan, and not many people know, but that was his first leak ever, okay? That's March 1968. Just to finish up here, LBJ, a week later on the 25th, okay, so this, the first leak on the 10th, the next on the 19th. On the 25th, he convened a group of what they used to call wise men, okay? Clark Clifford and all these wise men, okay? No women, of course. But they were saying, look, you've been lied to, Mr. President. We hate to tell you this, but Westmoreland was lying through his teeth. his one little thing here really speaks to General Creighton Abrams was Westmoreland's deputy. Westmoreland's making a trip somewhere in Southeast Asia. Abrams writes this cable, August 20th, 1967. And he says, Sam Adams figures about 500, 600,000 can't be released to the press. This is his words, because we have been projecting an image of success in this war, and no matter of caveats that we could adduce will prevent the press in Saigon from painting an erroneous and gloomy conclusion, end quote. I had lunch with Sam Adams that day. I said, he put that in the paper? And Sam said, yeah, it was a good tanker during World War II, but he doesn't know anything about politics. That's on paper. It's in a cable. It's up in the director's office. So the whole thing was deceptive from the beginning. The military was so. What happens on the 25th of March, going back to the two leaks, this group of wise men says, LBJ, that's it. I mean, it's and LBJ says, and then we have the memo here. We cannot continue this war. It's lost. The New York Times has done incredible damage. We can't win. And so I'm going to negotiations. I'm going to bombing pause. And last of all, on March 31st, 1968, he announced that he would not run for president again. So all I'm saying here is that's what we need now. You brought us up to date. Okay, all we need now is for some people with principles, some people who care about morality and don't like to be participants in genocide, that kind of stuff. All we need now is people to come out from the woodwork and do the kinds of things that Les Gelb and Dan Ellsberg did back in the day, and show a light on all this deception that Lloyd Austin, a worthy successor to Westmoreland, and other people who do not tell the truth and are willing to send Ukrainians to the last Ukrainian, and God forbid, U.S. troops as well. So I'm sorry to carry on this long, but I felt very close to that. Nobody knows this story, and it fills in a couple of extra things. You did it just exactly right, but these are additions that show how terrible the muzzling of the press, and of course it's less worse now, and how generals lie to presidents. Presidents almost approve troops going up to China, for God's sake. That happened before, people might remember, right? And how people who are patriots and leak things like Dan Ellsberg, how they saved the day, at least for a while. Well, Johnson went to a bombing pause. It continued, but at least that was a time when it could have stopped, and it didn't. So sorry to be so long on this, Susan. Thanks again for a wonderful, wonderful portrayal of that key year, 1967. I didn't know half of what you were involved in. Now I do, and admire you even more. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Rick. I just would like to
have a couple of questions, but
I just would like to, Marty, just say a couple of words in response to what Ray said. It is extraordinary, I think, when you go back and look at the actions of everyday people in the military who just said, this is wrong. It is morally wrong. It is something that we need to stop. And they took an action against the greatest military on earth. It is extraordinary today when we see the students on campuses camping out and saying, this genocide in Gaza has to stop, and that you see the support they're getting from communities. So what I see today is really hope, is to say when people and communities work together and we veterans work together with them, that we can have an impact and can stop these actions. It's my hope. It's my continual hope.
So, Susan, one question is, how do you keep your spirit up day after day?
Because I work with people like Ray and you, Marty, and see the folks who are here today. It's the fact that we all believe that we can have an impact on changing what is going on in the world. And my God, if we don't, then what are we doing? I think we in this country have a responsibility to do the best that we can to stop this war machine and to see new generations, really young people, stepping up and saying this is morally unacceptable and I won't allow it to continue, gives me hope.